I hated my downstairs neighbor. He wasn't loud or violent or dangerous. He was just exhausting. The guy treated his entire life like a non-stop audition for internet stardom. Every week, it was something new. One day, he was crawling through our apartment vents in full military gear, claiming he was doing a stealth challenge. The next, he was outside with a kiddie pool full of ketchup, pretending he'd been crushed by a vending machine. I once saw him fake a seizure in the parking lot for a video called "What If Your Body Glitched?" He wasn't even famous. Maybe a few thousand followers max, but he lived like he was performing for millions, always narrating his life into a phone, always filming with cheap lights through his windows. I didn't hate him because he was weird. I hated him because he had no boundaries. One time he asked if he could accidentally fall through my ceiling for a prank. I told him no. He tried it anyway. So when he knocked on my door one night and said he was going off-grid for a few weeks, I was relieved. He asked me to collect his mail and watch for any packages. Said he'd queue some uploads to keep the algorithm happy and disappear for a bit. That was fine by me. For the first week, nothing happened. Just junk mail and a few padded envelopes. Then, one afternoon, I came home and found a huge wooden crate in the hallway, sitting right outside his door. No labels, no branding, just one side stamped in black ink. Live content, handle with care. I knocked on his door before I remembered he wasn't home. The crate didn't make a sound. I gave it a nudge. It was heavy, really heavy. I could barely get it to budge. I should have just left it there, honestly. But part of me felt weird about abandoning a box like that in plain view. The hallway wasn't exactly secure, and the last thing I wanted was for someone to break it open and find whatever was inside. So I decided to store it inside his apartment. I had his key. It took everything I had to drag the crate through his door and into the living room. I left it there against the wall, meaning to ask him about it when he came back. I figured it was just some elaborate prop, maybe a coffin for a fake funeral stunt, or a monster box for Halloween. A couple days later, the smell started. At first it was just musty. I assumed it was his old garbage or maybe something rotting in the fridge, but then it got sharper, sour, wet. I opened the windows, sprayed air freshener, tried to ignore it. The fourth day, it hit me the second I walked into the hallway. It was leaking through the crack under his door. I unlocked it, walked inside, and nearly gagged. The smell was thick. It had weight. I followed it to the crate. The wood had started to darken in one corner, the grain soaked with something thick and black. Flies buzzed around it. I called him. No answer. I texted. Nothing. Finally, I grabbed a crowbar from the maintenance closet and forced the lid open. Inside the crate was a plastic-lined interior, like a DIY coffin. There was a camping lantern tipped on its side, a couple half-eaten protein bars, a GoPro, and lying there, curled into a fetal position, was my neighbor. His body was stiff. His mouth hung open like he'd been screaming. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, and unfocused. His fingers were black at the tips, clutching the GoPro tight against his chest. I backed out of the apartment and called the police. They came fast, took my statement, asked why I had a key, why I moved the crate. I told them everything. They brought me to the station, fingerprinted me, asked if I'd seen anything suspicious. I told them no. I hadn't seen or heard anything. That was the truth. They let me go eventually, said it looked like a tragic accident. The coroner estimated he'd been dead for about 5 days. Cause of death: suffocation, possibly after a seizure or heart failure. The box was airtight. No ventilation. No way out from the inside. A week later, a detective called and said they'd recovered the footage. It was rough. Most of it was dark. The GoPro had been recording from inside the crate, strapped to a corner. At first, it was just my neighbor talking to the camera. He was excited. Too excited. "This is the big one," he whispered. "Mailing myself from one city to another. No help, no cuts, all real. I've got supplies, I've got battery packs. I'll edit it all together when I get back. It's gonna go viral, trust me." He gave a tour of the crate setup. Lantern, snacks, bottled water, a bucket for waste. He had it all figured out. His friend, someone I'd seen around the building before, helped seal the lid. They laughed together before closing it up. The next few clips were time lapses. He was bored, sweaty, kept checking the time, said he could feel the box moving, then said it had stopped, then moving again, then nothing for a while. The last clear clip showed him frowning, wiping sweat off his face. "So I'm pretty sure we stopped hours ago," he mumbled. "No signal. Pretty hot. Starting to feel dizzy. Should have punched holes." He laughed, but it didn't sound real. He started coughing, took off his shirt, gulped water. Then he went quiet. The last video was over an hour long. Nothing moved, just darkness and breathing. Then, at one point, a loud thud shook the frame. The crate tipped slightly, as if it had been dropped or knocked over. That's when his breathing changed. Shallow, strained. The final sounds were wheezing gasps. Then silence. When I moved that crate, I didn't notice anything strange. No smell, no stains, nothing to warn me. But the timestamp on the final video clip made everything worse. He didn't die in transit. He died right there, in his own apartment, hours after I dragged him inside. The camera kept recording. First, just silence and darkness. Then a cough, a soft knock against the wood, shuffling. He tried to get out. He was still alive. And I was just upstairs, sitting on my couch, watching TV. I didn't hear a thing. The coroner said it was probably dehydration, heat exhaustion, maybe panic, maybe a seizure. They couldn't be sure. All I know is he was alive when I locked the door behind me. Every time I try to sleep, I hear it again. That soft knock, that cough. Not in the footage, just in my head. Because he didn't die in some warehouse or shipping truck. He died here, and I helped him carry the box inside.